Jasmine Williams was tired. Her feet hurt and her back ached from standing for 12 hours at the hospital. She worked as a nurse at Charlotte Medical Center, and today had been one of those long days that seemed to never end. All she wanted was to get home, take off her shoes, and hug her children. She drove her Honda Civic through the quiet streets of her neighborhood. The spring afternoon sun was warm and gentle. In the back seat, her 2 children sat quietly. Malik was 8 years old, wearing his school uniform and looking out the window. His little sister Zara was 5. She had her favorite stuffed rabbit on her lap and was humming a song she learned at school. Jasmine smiled at them in the rearview mirror. They were good kids. Malik helped his sister with her homework every day. Zara always made everyone laugh with her silly jokes. Jasmine worked hard to give them a good life. It was not easy being a single mother, but she managed. Their small house was just 3 blocks away now. Then she saw the flashing lights behind her. Red and blue lights filled her mirror. Jasmine felt her heart drop. She looked at the speedometer. She was not speeding. She checked her seatbelt. It was on. She tried to think of what she might have done wrong, but nothing came to mind. "Mom?" Malik asked from the back seat. His voice was small and worried. "It's okay, baby," Jasmine said, trying to sound calm. "Just stay quiet for a minute." She pulled over carefully to the side of the road right in front of the Hendersons' house. Mrs. Henderson was watering her flowers in the front yard. Jasmine put the car in park and placed both hands on the steering wheel where they could be seen. Her mother had taught her this years ago. Always keep your hands visible. Always be polite. Always stay calm. A police officer walked up to her window. He was a white man, maybe in his 40s, with a hard face. His hand rested near his gun. Jasmine felt her stomach tighten with fear. But she kept her face calm for the children. She rolled down her window. "Good afternoon, officer," she said politely. The officer did not smile. He did not say hello. He just stared at her for a long moment. "License and registration," he said. "Of course," Jasmine said. "May I ask why you stopped me?" The officer's face became harder. "Just give me your license and registration." Jasmine reached slowly for her purse, making sure to move carefully. "I'm reaching for my purse now," she said clearly. She had seen too many news stories. She knew she had to be careful. She pulled out her license and registration and handed them to the officer. He looked at them without expression. "You ran a stop sign back there," he said. Jasmine was confused. "I'm sorry, officer, but I don't think there was a stop sign on this street. I drive this way every day. I live just down the block." The officer's eyes narrowed. "Are you arguing with me?" "No, sir," Jasmine said quickly. "I'm just confused. I didn't see a stop sign. So you're calling me a liar?" Jasmine felt panic rising in her chest. This was going wrong, and she did not know why. "No, officer. I'm not calling you anything. I'm just trying to understand." In the back seat, Zara started to cry quietly. Malik reached over and held her hand. Jasmine could see them in the mirror, and her heart broke. They should not have to see this. They should not have to be scared. The officer looked at the children, then back at Jasmine. "Wait here," he said. He walked back to his patrol car. Jasmine sat very still. Her hands were shaking. She gripped the steering wheel tighter to make them stop. She could see Mrs. Henderson had stopped watering her flowers and was watching. Another neighbor, Mr. Chen from 2 houses down, had come out onto his porch. The officer came back. His face was even harder now. "Step out of the car," he said. "Why?" Jasmine asked. "What did I do?" "Step out of the car now," the officer said louder. "Mom," Malik said. His voice was scared. "It's okay, baby," Jasmine said, but her voice was shaking now. "Just stay in the car with your sister." "I'm not going to ask again," the officer said. His hand moved closer to his gun. Jasmine felt tears in her eyes, but she blinked them back. She could not cry. Not in front of her children. "Officer, please. I'm a nurse. I just got off work. I'm trying to get my kids home. Can you please just tell me what this is about?" "You're being difficult," the officer said. "You're not complying." "I am complying," Jasmine said. She heard her voice rising and tried to control it. "I gave you my license. I pulled over. I'm being respectful. I just want to know what I did wrong." The officer reached for his radio. "I need backup," he said into it. "I have a difficult suspect refusing to comply." Jasmine could not believe what was happening. "I'm not refusing anything," she said. "Please, my children are in the car. More neighbors were coming outside now." She could see Mr. and Mrs. Henderson walking toward the street. Mr. Chen was filming on his phone. A few other people she knew from the neighborhood were on their porches watching. The officer opened her car door. "Out now!" Jasmine's whole body was shaking. She unbuckled her seatbelt slowly. In the back seat, both children were crying now. Malik was trying to be brave, but tears ran down his face. Zara was crying into her stuffed rabbit. "What are you arresting me for?" Jasmine asked. Her voice was barely a whisper now. The officer grabbed her arm. His grip was tight and rough. "Obstruction. Failure to comply, resisting." "I'm not resisting," Jasmine said. "I'm sitting in my car." "You're arguing with me," the officer said. He pulled her arm, trying to get her out of the car. "Mama!" Zara screamed. Jasmine's nurse training kicked in. She knew how to stay calm in emergencies. She knew how to breathe through panic. But this was different. This was her children watching. This was happening in front of her home. This was wrong. And everyone could see it was wrong, but it was still happening. The officer pulled harder on her arm. Jasmine did not resist, but she did not help him either. She was frozen, unable to make her body move. This could not be real. This could not be happening. Then a voice cut through everything. "Officer Patterson, what's going on here?" The voice was calm but firm. It had authority. The officer froze. His hand was still on Jasmine's arm, but he stopped pulling. He turned his head. A man was walking toward them from a house 3 doors down. He was Latino, maybe 50 years old, wearing jeans and a t-shirt. He looked like he had been working in his yard. But the way Officer Patterson reacted to him was different from how he had treated Jasmine. "Captain Torres," Patterson said. His voice changed completely. The hardness was gone. Now he sounded worried. Captain Torres walked up to them. He looked at Patterson's hand on Jasmine's arm, then at the crying children in the back seat, then at all the neighbors watching. His face was serious. "Officer Patterson," he said again, "I asked you a question. What is going on here?" Patterson let go of Jasmine's arm. She pulled it back quickly and held it against her chest. It hurt where he had grabbed her. "I stopped this woman for running a stop sign," Patterson said. "She's been argumentative and refusing to comply with my orders." Captain Torres looked down the street, then back at Patterson. "What stop sign?" he asked. Patterson pointed vaguely down the street. "Back there," he said. "There's no stop sign on this street," Captain Torres said. His voice was still calm, but there was steel in it now. "I drive this street every day. I live right there." He pointed at his house. Patterson's face turned red. "I mean, she was speeding," he said quickly. "Did you clock her speed?" Torres asked. Patterson hesitated. "I observed her driving recklessly." Torres looked at Jasmine. She saw kindness in his eyes and something else. Recognition. "Miss Williams," he said. "Are you okay? Are your children okay?" Jasmine was surprised he knew her name. Then she remembered. His wife Sarah worked at the hospital. They had met at a neighborhood barbecue last summer. Sarah was a doctor. They had talked about their kids and schools and normal nice things. "I'm scared," Jasmine said honestly. Her voice broke. "I don't know what I did wrong. I just want to take my kids home." Torres nodded. He turned to Patterson. "Is your body camera on?" he asked. Patterson's face went pale. "It's malfunctioning," he said. "That's a policy violation," Torres said. "You know that." Several neighbors were filming now. Mrs. Henderson was talking quietly to Mr. Henderson, who was nodding. Mr. Chen still had his phone up, recording everything. Torres took a breath. When he spoke again, his voice was different. This was not a neighbor talking. This was a police captain giving orders to an officer. "Officer Patterson, return to your vehicle. I'm taking over this scene." Patterson stood there for a moment like he might argue, but he was facing his own captain now, not a scared mother. He walked back to his patrol car. Torres turned to Jasmine. "Ms. Williams, I'm very sorry about this. Are you hurt? Do you need medical attention?" Jasmine shook her head. She could not speak. All the fear and anger and confusion of the last 10 minutes was catching up to her. Her legs felt weak. "Let me check on your children," Torres said gently. He walked to the back door and opened it carefully. Malik and Zara were still crying. "Hi there," he said softly. "My name is Michael. I live in that house over there with the blue door. Everything is okay now. Is Mama in trouble?" Malik asked through his tears. "No," Torres said firmly. "Your Mama did nothing wrong. Nothing at all. You understand me?" Malik nodded slowly. Torres took out his wallet and pulled out a card. He handed it to Jasmine. This has my number on it. I want you to file a formal complaint about this tomorrow. Will you do that? Jasmine took the card with shaking hands. Will it matter? She asked quietly. Torres looked her in the eyes. Yes, he said. I will make sure it matters. I promise you that. Another police car pulled up. The backup Patterson had called for. Torres walked over to them and spoke quietly. Jasmine could not hear what he said, but the other officers nodded and stayed in their car. Torres came back to Jasmine. You can go home now. You're not being cited for anything. There was no violation. Thank you, Jasmine whispered. She got back in her car. Her hands were still shaking so badly she could barely grip the steering wheel. She drove the 3 blocks to her house, going very slowly. In the mirror, she could see Malik still holding Zara's hand. When she pulled into her driveway, she finally let herself cry. That night, Jasmine could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Officer Patterson's face. She heard his voice telling her to get out of the car. She felt his hand gripping her arm. She heard her children crying. At 2 in the morning, she got up and checked on Malik and Zara. They were both in Zara's bed, sleeping close together. Zara was holding her stuffed rabbit tight. Malik had his arm around his sister. They looked so small and innocent. They should never have seen what they saw today. Jasmine went to the kitchen and made tea. Her hands were steadier now, but she still felt shaky inside. She kept thinking about what could have happened. What if Captain Torres had not been there? What if no neighbors had been watching? What if Patterson had pulled her out of the car roughly and her children had seen worse? She thought about the news stories she had seen. Black people pulled over for no reason. Black people hurt by police. Black people who never made it home to their children. She had always been careful. She had always taught Malik to be respectful to police, to keep his hands visible, to never make sudden moves. But today she learned that being careful might not be enough. Her phone rang. It was her sister, Denise. Jasmine had called her earlier, right after putting the kids to bed, and told her everything. I'm coming over, Denise said without saying hello. I couldn't sleep. I'm worried about you. It's 2 in the morning, Jasmine said. I don't care. I'm already in my car. 20 minutes later, Denise was in Jasmine's kitchen. She hugged her sister tight and did not let go for a long time. Denise was younger than Jasmine by 4 years. She worked as a paralegal at a law firm downtown. She was tough and smart and never backed down from a fight. You have to file that complaint, Denise said. Tomorrow. First thing? I don't know, Jasmine said. She felt tired just thinking about it. What's the point? Nothing ever happens. They'll protect their own. Captain Torres told you to file it, Denise said. He gave you his card. He said he would make sure it matters. He's just one person, Jasmine said. Maybe, Denise said, but maybe he means it. And even if nothing happens, you have to try. What if Patterson does this to someone else? What if next time there's no captain nearby? What if next time someone gets hurt? Jasmine knew her sister was right. She had been thinking the same thing. But she was so tired. She worked long hours at the hospital. She took care of her children alone. She volunteered at their school. She did not have energy for a fight with the police department. I'm scared, Jasmine said quietly. What if they make my life harder? What if they target me? Then we fight that too, Denise said firmly. You're not alone in this. I'm with you. The neighbors are with you. Mr. Chen got it all on video. Mrs. Henderson saw everything. You have support. They talked until the sun came up. By the time Malik and Zara woke up, Jasmine had made her decision. She would file the complaint. But first, she had to help her children. Zara came out of her bedroom crying. She had wet the bed, something she had not done in 2 years. She was embarrassed and upset. Jasmine held her and told her it was okay, that sometimes scary things made our bodies react in ways we could not control. Malik was quiet at breakfast. He usually talked a lot in the mornings, telling stories about his dreams or asking questions about everything. But today he just pushed his cereal around in his bowl. Baby, talk to me, Jasmine said. What are you thinking? Malik looked up at her. His eyes were serious, older than 8 years old should be. Can police just do that, he asked. Can they stop people for no reason? Jasmine wanted to lie. She wanted to tell him that police were good people who protected everyone equally, but she could not lie to him. Not after what he saw. Some police officers don't do their jobs right, she said carefully. They treat people unfairly, especially black people. What happened yesterday was wrong. That officer was wrong. Will he go to jail? Malik asked. I don't know, Jasmine said honestly, but I'm going to try to make sure he can't do it to anyone else. After Denise left, Jasmine called her supervisor at the hospital and asked for the day off. Then she got dressed in her nicest clothes. She wanted to look professional, put together. She knew that mattered, even though it should not. She dropped the children at school. Malik did not want to go. He wanted to stay with his mother. But Jasmine knew he needed normal routine. She promised to pick him up right on time and take them for ice cream after school. Then she drove to the police station. Her stomach was tight with nerves. Denise met her in the parking lot. They walked in together. The front desk officer was a young woman with kind eyes. When Jasmine said she wanted to file a complaint, the woman nodded and made a phone call. 10 minutes later, Captain Torres came out to the lobby. Ms. Williams, he said, thank you for coming. Please follow me. He led them to a small conference room. Another woman was there, a black woman in a police uniform with short natural hair. She stood up when they entered. This is Lieutenant Grace Okonkwo, Torres said. She heads our Internal Affairs Division. She'll be investigating your complaint. Lieutenant Okonkwo shook Jasmine's hand firmly. I'm very sorry for what happened to you, she said. Her voice was warm but professional. I want you to know I take this seriously. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. Take your time answering. Tell me everything, even small details you think might not matter. For the next 2 hours, Jasmine told her story. Lieutenant Okonkwo recorded everything and took notes. She asked about the exact time, the exact location, what Patterson said word for word, how he grabbed her arm, how the children reacted. She asked about Jasmine's driving before the stop, whether she had done anything that might have looked suspicious. Jasmine answered every question honestly. She described the fear she felt, the confusion, the way Patterson kept changing his story about why he stopped her. She described her children crying in the back seat. Lieutenant Okonkwo showed her a photo. Is this the officer who stopped you? Jasmine's stomach dropped when she saw Patterson's face. Yes, she said. That's him, Okonkwo nodded and made a note. Then she looked at Jasmine seriously. I need to tell you something. Officer Patterson has been with the department for 15 years. In that time, he has received 7 complaints from community members. 6 of them were from Black or Latino residents.
1 was from an Asian family. Jasmine felt anger rise in her chest.
7 complaints, and he's still working. None of the previous complaints were fully investigated, Okonkwo said. Her voice was tight with what sounded like her own anger. They were dismissed as misunderstandings or lack of evidence. But this time is different. This time we have multiple witnesses. We have video footage from neighbors. We have Captain Torres as a witness, and we have me doing the investigation. What does that mean? Denise asked. It means I won't let this be swept away, Okonkwo said firmly. I became a police officer because I believed in justice. I became head of internal affairs to make sure officers are held accountable. Patterson's pattern of behavior is clear now. I'm going to make sure everyone sees it. Over the next few days, Lieutenant Okonkwo worked fast. She collected video footage from Mr. Chen and 2 other neighbors. She got footage from Mrs. Henderson's doorbell camera, which had caught audio of the whole incident. She pulled data from Patterson's patrol car. Even though his body camera was not on, his dashboard camera was, and it showed him following Jasmine for 3 blocks before he turned on his lights. Captain Torres gave his statement. So did Mr. and Mrs. Henderson. Mr. Chen gave his video and a written statement about other times he had seen Patterson treat minority residents with what he called excessive suspicion. Then other people started coming forward. A young Latino man named Carlos Ruiz contacted Okonkwo. He said Patterson had stopped him 6 months ago while he was jogging. Patterson made him sit on the curb for 30 minutes while he checked for warrants. There were no warrants. Carlos was just jogging in his own neighborhood. A black teenage girl named Destiny Thompson reported that Patterson had questioned her aggressively at a bus stop, asking what she was doing there. The bus stop was right in front of her house. She was waiting for her school bus like she did every morning. A Vietnamese family, the Nguyens, said Patterson had stopped their car 3 times in 2 months. Each time he claimed there was something wrong with their vehicle. Each time their mechanic checked and found nothing wrong, the pattern was clear. Patterson targeted people of color. He stopped them without good reason. He treated them like criminals for existing in their own neighborhood. The local news got word of the story. A reporter named Angela Martinez called Jasmine and asked for an interview. Jasmine was nervous about going public, but Denise encouraged her. "Your story can help other people," Denise said. "It can make this harder to ignore." So Jasmine agreed. She sat in her living room and told her story to the camera. She talked about the fear, the helplessness, the trauma to her children. She talked about Officer Patterson's aggression and the 7 complaints against him that were ignored. The story aired on the evening news. It showed the video from Mr. Chen's phone. It showed the dashboard camera footage of Patterson following Jasmine. It showed Jasmine describing what happened, her voice steady but her eyes showing the pain. The story spread. Other local news stations picked it up. People on social media shared it. Jasmine's phone filled with messages from strangers offering support and some sending hate. Some messages said she was making it about race when it was not. Some said she must have done something wrong. Some called her names. But many more sent love and support. Other Black mothers shared their own stories of being stopped by police, of being afraid, of teaching their children how to survive encounters with officers who saw them as threats. 3 days after filing the complaint, Jasmine got a call from Lieutenant Okonkwo. "Officer Patterson has been suspended without pay," Okonkwo said, "pending a full investigation. If the investigation concludes as I expect it will, we'll move forward with termination." Jasmine sat down. She had not really expected this. "What happens now?" she asked. "There will be a disciplinary hearing in a few weeks," Okonkwo explained. "You'll be asked to testify. So will the other witnesses. A panel will review all the evidence and make a recommendation to the chief of police." "Will it be enough?" Jasmine asked. "Will he actually be fired?" "I can't promise you that," Okonkwo said honestly. "But I can promise you I'll do everything in my power to make sure he's held accountable." That night, Jasmine told Malik and Zara that the police officer who scared them was not working anymore while they investigated what he did wrong. She tried to explain it in a way they could understand. "So he might get in trouble?" Malik asked. "Yes," Jasmine said, "because what he did was wrong." "Good," Malik said firmly. Then his face got soft and worried. "But Mom, are you in trouble for telling on him?" Jasmine's heart broke a little. Her 8-year-old son was worried about retaliation. He had learned too much too young about how the world worked. "No, baby," she said, pulling him close. "I'm not in trouble. Speaking up when something is wrong is the right thing to do. Always." She just hoped she was telling him the truth. 3 weeks passed before the disciplinary hearing. They were not easy weeks for Jasmine and her family. The news coverage had made their story public, and that brought both support and problems. Some people in the community reached out with kindness. Neighbors brought food. Parents at the children's school sent cards. The local NAACP chapter offered to provide Jasmine with a lawyer for free. She accepted gratefully, but there were also negative reactions. Some people left angry comments on the news website, saying Jasmine was lying or making it about race when it was not. Someone left a nasty note on her car windshield saying she was trying to destroy a good officer's career. Once, when she was at the grocery store, a white woman stared at her and said loudly to her friend, "Some people just want attention." Jasmine tried to ignore it. She focused on her children and their healing. Both Malik and Zara were seeing a therapist now. Dr. Keisha Brown specialized in helping children deal with trauma. She was a Black woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice that made the children feel safe. Dr. Brown used play therapy with Zara, letting her act out scenarios with dolls. Slowly, Zara's nightmares became less frequent. She still got nervous when she saw police cars, but she did not cry anymore. With Malik, Dr. Brown talked more directly. She helped him understand that what happened was not normal or right, that most police officers did not act like Patterson. But she also validated his feelings. It was okay to be angry. It was okay to be scared. His feelings made sense. Jasmine also started therapy for herself. She did not realize how much the incident had affected her until she started talking about it. She had anxiety now when she drove. She watched her rearview mirror constantly, always worried she would see police lights. She felt angry at random moments, anger she had been pushing down because she needed to stay strong for her children. Dr. Brown helped her understand this was trauma, and trauma needed time and care to heal. She taught Jasmine breathing exercises for when the anxiety got bad. She reminded her that taking care of herself was not selfish. It was necessary, The day of the hearing arrived. Jasmine wore a navy blue dress and her most comfortable shoes. She knew it would be a long day. Her lawyer, Mr. James Mitchell, met her at the police station. He was an older black man who had been doing civil rights law for 30 years. Remember, he told her as they walked in, just tell the truth. Answer the questions directly. Don't get angry even if they try to make you angry. Stay calm. The hearing room was formal and intimidating. There was a long table at the front where 3 people sat. Mr. Mitchell explained these were the panel members who would decide Patterson's fate. There was a retired judge, a community advocate, and a law enforcement consultant from another city. Captain Torres was there. So was Lieutenant Okonkwo. So was Chief of Police Robert Kane, an older white man with gray hair and a tired face. And so was Officer Patterson, sitting with 2 lawyers from the police union. Jasmine felt her heart race when she saw Patterson. She had not seen him since that day. He looked different in his dress uniform, smaller somehow, but when his eyes met hers, they were cold and angry. The hearing began. Lieutenant Okonkwo presented the case against Patterson. She was organized and thorough. She showed the dashboard camera footage of Patterson following Jasmine's car. She played the audio from Mrs. Henderson's doorbell camera, where Patterson could be heard claiming Jasmine ran a stop sign, then changing his story to speeding, then to reckless driving. She showed the video Mr. Chen took on his phone. In the video, Jasmine's hands were visible on the steering wheel. Her voice was calm and respectful. Patterson was the one who sounded aggressive and hostile. The children could be heard crying in the background. Okonkwo presented statements from all 7 people who had filed complaints against Patterson over the years. She showed that 6 of them were people of color. She presented data showing that in the past year, 73% of Patterson's traffic stops were of black or Latino drivers, even though the neighborhood was only 35% black and Latino. This is not random, Okonkwo said clearly. This is a pattern. This is racial profiling, and it has been allowed to continue for years because complaints were dismissed without proper investigation. Patterson's lawyer stood up. He was a white man in an expensive suit. Officer Patterson has served this department for 15 years, he said. He has commendations for bravery. He has made numerous arrests. He has put his life on the line for this community. This hearing is based on one incident that has been blown out of proportion because of media attention and political pressure. He argued that Patterson was just doing his job, that he stopped Jasmine because he believed he saw a violation, that split-second decisions in policing are difficult, that Jasmine's tone and manner made him feel the situation was becoming unsafe. Officer Patterson felt threatened by Ms. Williams's demeanor, the lawyer said. Jasmine felt anger flash through her. She had been sitting in her car with her children. Her hands were visible. She had spoken politely. How could that possibly be threatening? Then it was time for testimony. Jasmine was called first. She walked to the witness chair on shaky legs. She placed her hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. Mr. Mitchell asked her to describe what happened that day. Jasmine told the whole story, just as she had told it to Lieutenant Okonkwo. She described her confusion when Patterson stopped her, her fear when he became aggressive, her terror when he grabbed her arm in front of her crying children. Can you describe how this has affected your children? Mr. Mitchell asked. Jasmine's voice shook. My 5-year-old daughter started wetting the bed again. She has nightmares. My 8-year-old son is afraid of police now. He asks me questions I don't know how to answer. Like why some officers hate black people. Like whether his mom could have been killed that day. She looked at Patterson as she spoke. They saw their mother treated like a criminal for no reason. They saw me scared and helpless. That's something they'll carry with them. That's damage that will take time to heal. Then Patterson's lawyer got to question her. He tried to make her seem like she had been uncooperative, but the video showed the truth. He tried to suggest she was exaggerating the children's trauma, which made Jasmine angry. But she remembered Mr. Mitchell's advice and stayed calm. Ms. Williams, the lawyer said, isn't it true that if you had simply gotten out of the car when Officer Patterson asked, this whole situation would have been resolved quickly? I did get out, Jasmine said, after he grabbed my arm. But I should not have had to. I was not breaking any law. I was sitting in my car with my children, asking for an explanation. That should not be a crime. Next, Captain Torres testified. He described arriving at the scene and seeing Patterson pulling a compliant woman from her car while her children cried. He described how Patterson's story kept changing. He described checking the street and finding no stop sign where Patterson claimed one was. Then Torres revealed the analysis of Patterson's traffic stops over the past year. The data was damning. Patterson stopped Black and Latino drivers at more than twice the rate other officers did, even though he patrolled the same areas. This is not about one bad stop, Torres said firmly. This is about a pattern of discriminatory behavior that the department failed to address. Mr. Henderson testified next. The elderly white man was clear and firm. I saw the whole thing from my porch, he said. That young woman did nothing wrong. She was respectful and calm. That officer was looking for trouble, and when he couldn't find it, he created it. Mrs. Henderson agreed. It was disturbing to watch, she said. I kept thinking, what if those were my grandchildren in that car? They were so scared. No child should have to see their mother treated that way. Mr. Chen testified about the video he took and about other incidents he had witnessed. Carlos Ruiz described being stopped while jogging. Destiny Thompson, now 16, described being questioned at her bus stop. The Nguyen family described being stopped repeatedly for no reason. Each testimony added to the picture. This was not one mistake. This was years of Patterson targeting people of color, treating them with suspicion and aggression, making them feel unsafe in their own community. Then it was Patterson's turn to testify. He sat in the witness chair looking angry and defensive. His lawyer asked him questions designed to make him look good. Patterson talked about the dangers of police work, the difficult decisions officers had to make, the need to be cautious for safety. But when Lieutenant Okonkwo questioned him, his story fell apart. She asked him exactly where the stop sign was. He could not give a clear answer. She asked why he followed Jasmine for 3 blocks before stopping her. He said he was observing her driving. She asked what specifically was wrong with her driving. He gave vague answers about her speed and lane position that the video contradicted. Officer Patterson, Okonkwo said, you wrote in your report that Ms. Williams made threatening movements. Can you point to those movements in the video? Patterson watched the video again. Jasmine's hands were on the wheel the whole time. Her tone was threatening, he said finally. Her tone? Okonkwo repeated. Can you explain how a tone is threatening when the words being said are polite questions? Patterson had no good answer. The final testimony came from police procedure experts. They explained that Patterson had violated multiple policies. He did not have clear cause for the stop. He escalated instead of de-escalating. He failed to activate his body camera. He filed a false report that did not match the evidence. After 2 full days of hearing testimony and reviewing evidence, the panel went away to make their decision. Jasmine waited with Mr. Mitchell, Denise, and Captain Torres in a small room. She could not eat. Her stomach was too tight with nerves. However this goes, Torres said to her, I want you to know you did the right thing. You showed courage. You made it harder for this to happen to someone else. 2 hours later, the panel returned. Everyone filed back into the hearing room. The retired judge, a black woman named Judge Franklin, spoke for the panel. We have reviewed all the evidence and testimony, she said. Her voice was serious and formal. We find that Officer Derek Patterson violated multiple department policies. He engaged in racial profiling. He made a stop without clear cause. He escalated a situation unnecessarily. He used excessive force. He filed a false report. And most significantly, this appears to be part of a long pattern of similar behavior. Jasmine held her breath. Our recommendation to Chief Kane is as follows, Judge Franklin continued. Officer Patterson should be terminated immediately. He should be permanently barred from law enforcement in the state of North Carolina. And this case should be referred to the state prosecutor for review of potential criminal charges. Jasmine felt tears fill her eyes. Denise grabbed her hand and squeezed tight. Chief Kane stood up. He looked tired and uncomfortable. I accept the panel's recommendation in full, he said. Effective immediately, Derek Patterson is no longer an officer with the Charlotte Police Department. Patterson's face turned red. He stood up quickly, his chair scraping loudly. "This is political," he said angrily. "This is about race, not justice." "No," Judge Franklin said firmly. "This is exactly about justice, and about holding officers accountable when they abuse their power." Patterson stared at Jasmine as he left the room. His eyes were full of hate. Jasmine stared back. She was not afraid of him anymore. He was just a man now, not a man with a badge and gun who could hurt her family. Outside the hearing room, reporters were waiting. Jasmine did not want to talk to them, but Mr. Mitchell convinced her to make a brief statement. "I didn't want any of this," she said to the cameras. "I just wanted to drive home safely with my children, but when something wrong happened, I had to speak up, not just for my family, but for all the families who don't get justice. I hope this sends a message that police officers who abuse their power will be held accountable." That night, Jasmine went home and held her children close. She told them that the officer who scared them would not be a police officer anymore. Malik asked if that meant he had learned his lesson. "I don't know if he learned anything," Jasmine said honestly. "But he can't hurt other families now. That's what matters." For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe a little easier. The weeks after the hearing were strange for Jasmine. She had won in a way. Patterson was fired and could never be a police officer again. But she did not feel victorious. She felt tired and sad and still a little scared. Her children were slowly getting better with Dr. Brown's help. Malik's nightmares happened less often now. He was starting to laugh and play again like a normal 8-year-old. But sometimes Jasmine would catch him staring out the window with a serious, worried look on his face. He had learned things about the world that he was too young to know. Zara was doing better too. She had not wet the bed in 2 weeks. She was back to being her silly, happy self most of the time. But she still got quiet and clingy when she saw police cars. She would grab Jasmine's hand tight and not let go until the car was out of sight. Jasmine herself was struggling more than she let anyone see. She still had anxiety every time she drove. Her heart would race if she saw a police car behind her, even if it was just driving normally with no interest in her. She would check her speed 5 times in 1 block. She would make sure her seatbelt was perfectly positioned. She would grip the steering wheel so tight her hands hurt. Dr. Brown told her this was normal after trauma. The body remembered the fear even when the mind knew she was safe. It would take time for that to fade. But Jasmine was impatient with herself. She was supposed to be strong. She was supposed to be over this by now. One day at the hospital, she was on her break when one of the doctors approached her. It was Dr. Sarah Torres, Captain Torres's wife. They knew each other a little from neighborhood events, but had never been close friends. "Jasmine," Sarah said, sitting down next to her. "How are you?" "Really?" Something about the kindness in Sarah's voice made Jasmine's carefully built walls crack. "I'm tired," she said quietly. "I'm so tired." Sarah nodded. "Michael told me you were incredibly brave, but brave doesn't mean not affected. Trauma is trauma, whether you did the right thing or not." They talked for the whole break. Sarah told her about the changes happening in the police department because of her case. Captain Torres had been promoted to deputy chief. He was using his new position to push for real reforms. Patterson's firing had sent a message through the department that discrimination would not be tolerated anymore. "Some officers are angry about it," Sarah said honestly. "They think the department is turning against police officers, but others are glad. The good officers want the bad ones gone. They know people like Patterson make everyone less safe." A few days later, Captain Torres, now Deputy Chief Torres, organized a community meeting at a local church. He invited residents to come talk about their experiences with police and what they wanted to see change. Jasmine was nervous about going, but Denise convinced her. The church was packed. Every seat was full, and people stood along the walls. Jasmine saw familiar faces. Mr. and Mrs. Henderson were there. Mr. Chen was there. Carlos Ruiz and the Nguyen family were there. So were dozens of other neighbors, both black and white, Latino and Asian, young and old. Deputy Chief Torres stood at the front with several other officers. One of them was a young white officer named Jordan Hayes. Another was a black woman officer named Tamika Johnson. "Thank you all for coming," Torres said. "We're here to listen. This is not about defending the department or making excuses. This is about hearing what you need to feel safe in your own community. One by one, people stood up and shared their stories. An older black man talked about being stopped 3 times in 1 month for driving an old car in a nice neighborhood. A young Latino woman talked about being followed by police in stores. A white mother talked about how she never worried about her teenage son being stopped by police. But her black neighbors had to teach their children special rules to stay safe. When it was her turn, Jasmine stood up. Her legs were shaking, but her voice was steady. "What happened to me was wrong," she said. "But it wasn't unusual. It happens every day to people who look like me. The difference is I had witnesses and video. I had a captain who lived on my street. Most people don't have that. What happens to them?" She looked at the officers at the front. "I don't hate police. I need police. My neighborhood needs police. But we need police who see us as human beings. We need police who protect us, not target us. We need police who admit when they're wrong and work to do better." When she sat down, people clapped. Several people wiped tears from their eyes. Officer Johnson spoke next. "I became a police officer because I wanted to help my community," she said. "But I know what it's like to be treated with suspicion because of my skin color. Even in this uniform, some people see me as less than. So I understand your pain, and I promise to do my part to make this department better." Officer Hayes spoke too. "I'm learning," he said honestly. "I grew up in a small town where everyone looked like me. I didn't understand racism, not really. But listening to all of you, watching Ms. Williams's case, it opened my eyes. I want to be a better officer. I want to earn your trust." The meeting lasted 3 hours. It did not fix everything, but it was a start. People talked. Officers listened. Some officers defended Patterson and got angry, but others admitted there was a problem and wanted to solve it. After the meeting, Officer Hayes approached Jasmine. "Ms. Williams," he said nervously, "I'm sorry for what happened to you, and I'm sorry it took your trauma for some of us to wake up." Jasmine studied him. He looked sincere. "Are you really going to do things differently?" She asked. "Yes," he said. "I promise." "Don't promise me," Jasmine said. "Promise yourself. And when you see other officers doing wrong, speak up. That's what matters." Over the next few months, the police department made changes. Some were small, some were bigger. All body cameras had to be on during any contact with civilians. If an officer's camera was not working, they had to report it immediately and could not make stops until it was fixed. A civilian review board was created. It was made up of community members, not police. They would review all complaints independently. They had the power to recommend discipline, and their recommendations had to be taken seriously. Every officer had to go through new training about bias and de-escalation. Some officers complained about it. They said they were being treated like racists when they were not. But the training went forward anyway. The department also started tracking data more carefully. Every traffic stop, every complaint, every use of force was recorded and analyzed. If an officer showed a pattern like Patterson had, it would be caught early now instead of being ignored for years. Jasmine watched these changes happen with mixed feelings. She was glad something good was coming from her trauma, but she also knew changes on paper did not always mean changes in reality. Time would tell if the reforms lasted. One afternoon, Jasmine took Malik and Zara to the park. It was a beautiful fall day, warm and sunny. The children played on the swings while Jasmine sat on a bench and watched them. For the first time in months, she felt almost peaceful. Then a police car pulled into the parking lot. Jasmine's body tensed automatically. Her heart started racing. She watched the car carefully, ready to grab her children and leave if needed. 2 officers got out. One was Officer Johnson. The other was an older Latino officer Jasmine did not recognize. They were not there for any police reason. They were just on patrol, stopping for coffee at the cafe next to the park. Officer Johnson saw Jasmine and waved. She said something to her partner, then walked over. "Ms. Williams," she said, "it's good to see you. How are your children doing?" Jasmine relaxed slightly. "Better," she said. "It's been hard, but they're healing." Officer Johnson looked at Malik and Zara on the swings. "I'm glad," she said. "I think about them sometimes, about how scared they must have been. No child should have to go through that." "No," Jasmine agreed. "They shouldn't." "I want you to know," Johnson said, "a lot of us are working hard to make sure it doesn't happen again. Not every officer is on board. Some still don't get it, but we're trying." After Johnson left, Malik came over. Was that a police officer, Mom? He asked. Yes, Jasmine said. Was she nice? Yes, baby. She was nice. Malik thought about this. So some officers are good and some are bad? That's right, Jasmine said. Just like some people are good and some are bad. The uniform doesn't make someone good or bad. Their choices do. It was not a perfect answer. The world was more complicated than that. But it was what she could give him for now. That night, Jasmine got a call from a woman she did not know. The woman's name was Monica Davis. She was calling from Atlanta. She had seen Jasmine's story on the news months ago, and now something similar had happened to her. I was stopped by a police officer for no reason, Monica said. Her voice was shaking. He was aggressive and hostile. My children were in the car. I'm scared to file a complaint, but I saw what you did and I thought maybe I could do it too. Jasmine talked to Monica for an hour. She told her about the process of filing a complaint. She told her about the hearing. She was honest about how hard it was, but also about how important it was. The system is designed to make you give up, Jasmine said. It's hard and frustrating and draining. But if we don't speak up, nothing changes. Were you scared? Monica asked. Terrified, Jasmine said honestly. But I did it anyway. And you can too. You're not alone. After that call, more calls came. Women and men who had been treated unfairly by police. People who had been too afraid to speak up before. People who needed someone to tell them their experience mattered. Jasmine had never wanted to be an activist. She just wanted to be a nurse and a mother. But life had given her a different path. She could either ignore it or embrace it. She decided to embrace it. With Denise's help, she started a small organization. They called it the Community Justice Project. It was simple. They documented police interactions. They connected people with lawyers. They supported families going through the complaint process. They pushed for policy changes. It was not glamorous work. It was meetings and paperwork and long phone calls. But it mattered. And slowly, very slowly, things started to change. 6 months after Patterson was fired, Jasmine was invited to speak at a city council meeting about police reform. She stood at the podium and looked at the council members. 6 months ago, I was just a mother trying to get home from work, she said. I never thought I would be standing here. But here I am. Because what happened to me happens every day, and it needs to stop. She talked about the changes that were working and the ones that were not. She talked about the need for accountability and the need for healing. She talked about her children and the children like them who deserve to feel safe. When she finished, the council members asked questions. Some were supportive, some were skeptical, but they all listened. And that was something. After the meeting, a young black woman approached her. She looked about 20 years old. Thank you, she said. My brother was killed by police 2 years ago. Nothing happened to the officer. No investigation, no accountability, nothing. Seeing what you did gives me hope that maybe things can change. Jasmine hugged her. They were both crying. I'm so sorry about your brother, Jasmine said. What was his name? Marcus, the woman said. Marcus Johnson. He was 19. He was just walking home. Jasmine added Marcus's name to the list in her heart, the list of people who deserved justice but never got it, the list of reasons why her work mattered. That night, she told Malik and Zara about the meeting. Mom talked to the city council today, she said, about making sure police officers are fair to everyone. Did they listen? Malik asked. Yes, Jasmine said. They listened. Are you going to keep doing this? He asked, talking about what happened. Jasmine thought about it, was she? This was not the life she had planned, but maybe it was the life she was meant to have. Yes, she said. I think I am. Is that okay with you? Malik hugged her. I think it's good, Mom, you're helping people. Like you help people at the hospital, just in a different way. Jasmine held her children close and felt something she had not felt in a long time. Not happiness exactly, but purpose, and hope that the world could be better than it was. 1 year had passed since that terrible afternoon when Officer Patterson stopped Jasmine in front of her children. 1 year of therapy, activism, healing, and fighting for change. Jasmine sometimes could not believe how much her life had transformed. The Community Justice Project had grown beyond what she ever imagined. What started as just her and Denise making phone calls had become a real organization. They now had an office, 3 part-time staff members, and dozens of volunteers. They helped families file complaints against police. They documented incidents of bias. They pushed for policy changes at city council meetings. Jasmine still worked as a nurse 3 days a week. She needed that work both for money and for her own sense of identity, but the other 4 days she devoted to the project. It was exhausting, but it felt important. Her children were doing much better. Malik was 9 now and back to his cheerful, curious self most of the time. He still had moments of anxiety around police, but they were less frequent. He had even made friends with Officer Hayes, who sometimes stopped by their community events. Zara was 6 and thriving. Her nightmares were gone. She was doing well in 1st grade. She still remembered what happened, but it did not define her anymore. She was just a little girl who loved unicorns and playing soccer and making everyone laugh with her silly jokes. One spring morning, Jasmine got a call from Deputy Chief Torres. "I have something I want to discuss with you," he said. "Can you come to my office this afternoon?" Jasmine was curious. Torres had been a strong supporter of the Community Justice Project. He often consulted with them on policy changes, but he usually did not call her to his office. They met at community meetings or coffee shops. That afternoon, she sat in his office at police headquarters. It felt strange to be there voluntarily, not filing a complaint or testifying at a hearing. Torres offered her coffee and they sat across from each other. "I want to start a new program," Torres said. "It's called the Community Advisory Council. It would be a group of residents who meet regularly with police leadership. They would give feedback on policies, help build trust, and be a bridge between the community and the department." "That sounds good," Jasmine said. "How can the Community Justice Project help?" "I want you to lead it," Torres said. Jasmine was shocked. "Me? Lead a police advisory council?" "Yes," Torres said firmly. "You understand both sides. You experienced the worst of police misconduct, but you also worked with us to create change. You don't just criticize. You find solutions. That's what this council needs." Jasmine did not answer right away. She thought about Officer Patterson, about the fear she felt that day, about her children crying. Could she really work that closely with the police department? But then she thought about Officer Johnson and Officer Hayes and the other good officers trying to do better. She thought about Deputy Chief Torres and his commitment to reform. She thought about all the families who needed the police to be better. "I'll do it," she said, "but I have conditions." "Name them," Torres said. "The council has to have real power," Jasmine said. "Not just advisory. We need to be able to review policies before they're implemented. We need access to data. We need to be taken seriously." "Agreed," Torres said. "And the members have to represent the whole community," Jasmine continued. "Not just people who already like the police. We need people who have been hurt by police. Young people, immigrants, people who don't usually have a voice." "Agreed," Torres said again. Over the next few months, Jasmine built the Community Advisory Council. She recruited 15 members from across Charlotte. There was Carlos Ruiz, the young man who Patterson had stopped while jogging. There was Destiny Thompson, now 17 and passionate about justice. There was Mrs. Henderson representing older residents. There was Reverend Marcus Chen, who had recorded the video that day. There were young activists, immigrant advocates, and formerly incarcerated people trying to rebuild their lives. Their first meeting was tense. Many council members did not trust the police. Some had been hurt badly by officers. They were skeptical that anything would really change. Jasmine understood. "I was skeptical too," she said. "I still am sometimes. But here's what I know. We can either stay outside throwing stones or we can come inside and help build something better. Both are valid. But I'm choosing to come inside." The council met monthly with police leadership. They reviewed new policies before they were finalized. They gave feedback on training programs. They looked at data on stops, complaints, and use of force. When they saw problems, they spoke up. And mostly the police listened. It was not always smooth. Sometimes council members got angry at what they saw in the data. Sometimes police leaders got defensive, but they kept talking. They kept working. And slowly, trust started to build. Officer Hayes became one of their strongest allies. He was young and idealistic, and he genuinely wanted to be part of the solution. He started bringing other young officers to the council meetings. They listened to stories from community members, and it changed how they saw their jobs. One evening, Hayes approached Jasmine after a meeting. "Can I ask you something personal?" he said. "Sure," Jasmine said. "Do you still get scared when you see police cars?" he asked. Jasmine appreciated his honesty. Sometimes, she said. Less than before, but yes. My body remembers the fear even when my mind knows I'm safe. Hayes nodded sadly. I hate that Patterson did that to you. I hate that any officer did that to anyone. It makes all of us look bad. It makes people afraid of us when we're supposed to make them feel safe. So what are you going to do about it? Jasmine asked. I'm trying, Hayes said. I speak up when I see other officers being aggressive for no reason. I report bias when I see it. Some of the older officers don't like me now. They call me soft. But I don't care. I'd rather be soft than be like Patterson. Stories like this gave Jasmine hope. Change was possible. It was slow and hard, but it was possible. The Community Justice Project kept growing. They started offering free legal clinics where people could talk to lawyers about their rights. They created a hotline for people to report police misconduct anonymously. They trained community members to document police interactions safely. Jasmine started speaking at conferences across the country. She told her story, but she also shared what was working in Charlotte. Other cities wanted to know how they built the Community Advisory Council, how they got police and residents talking, how they created accountability while also building trust. It was strange being seen as an expert. She still felt like just a mom and nurse who had something bad happen and decided to fight back. But she learned to accept her role. If her experience could help other communities, she would share it. One day she got an unexpected visitor at the Community Justice Project office. It was Monica Davis, the woman from Atlanta who had called her months ago after being stopped by police. Monica had filed a complaint against the officer. The investigation was still ongoing, but Monica was not giving up. I came to see what you built here, Monica said, looking around the office. I want to start something similar in Atlanta. Jasmine spent the afternoon showing Monica how everything worked. She shared their documents, their strategies, their successes and failures. She introduced Monica to the team and council members. The most important thing, Jasmine said, is to never do this alone. Find your people. Build a team. Support each other. This work is too hard to carry by yourself. Monica nodded. That's what you did for me on that phone call. You made me feel less alone. That's what I want to do for other people in Atlanta. After Monica left, Jasmine felt proud. The circle was expanding. One person's courage inspired another's. That's how change happened. Not through one big moment, but through thousands of small acts of bravery by ordinary people who decided they had had enough. But not everything was positive. Jasmine also received hate mail and threatening messages. Some people saw her as anti-police and dangerous. Someone spray-painted race baiter on the Community Justice Project office wall. Another time, someone slashed the tires on her car. These incidents scared her. She worried about her children's safety. She worried about the safety of her staff and volunteers. But she refused to be intimidated into silence. Deputy Chief Torres increased police patrols around the office and her home after the vandalism. Jasmine had mixed feelings about accepting police protection, but she also knew she had to be smart. She had Malik and Zara to think about. The children knew their mother was doing important work. They saw her on the news sometimes. They heard her on the phone helping people. Malik told his teacher that his mom was a justice fighter. Zara told her class that her mom helped people who were treated unfairly. One evening, Malik asked Jasmine a hard question. Mom, do you think that police officer who scared us is sorry? Jasmine thought about Patterson. She had heard through Deputy Chief Torres that Patterson never admitted he did anything wrong. He blamed the department for bowing to political pressure. He blamed Jasmine for playing the race card. He blamed everyone but himself. No, baby, Jasmine said honestly. I don't think he's sorry. I think he still believes he did nothing wrong. That's sad, Malik said. Yes, it is, Jasmine agreed. But we can't control whether he learns or changes. We can only control what we do. And we chose to make something good come from something bad. On the anniversary of the incident, Jasmine organized a community event. It was not about what happened to her specifically. It was about honoring everyone who had experienced police misconduct and everyone working for change. They held it in the park where Jasmine had talked to Officer Johnson that day. There were speakers, including Destiny Thompson and Carlos Ruiz. There was music and food. There were resources for people who needed help. And there was a memorial wall where people could write the names of loved ones lost to police violence. Jasmine watched as people wrote names on the wall. Marcus Johnson, the young man whose sister had approached her after the city council meeting. Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Tamir Rice, so many names. Too many names? Deputy Chief Torres came to the event. So did Officer Johnson and Officer Hayes. Some community members were angry they were there. They felt like the event was not for police. But Jasmine defended their presence. Change happens when we talk to each other, not past each other, she said. Yes, the police department has done harm, but some officers are working hard to do better. We need to acknowledge that. During the event, a young black man approached Jasmine. He looked about 18 or 19. He was nervous. Ms. Williams, he said, I'm Jaden. I wanted to thank you. For what? Jasmine asked. My brother and I were stopped by police last week, Jaden said. The officer was being aggressive, asking us what we were doing in the neighborhood. We live there, but then his partner stepped in. She was nicer. She explained they were looking for someone, but it wasn't us. She apologized for the confusion. The first officer looked annoyed, but he backed off. That's good, Jasmine said. The nice officer was Officer Johnson, Jaden said. After they left, I looked her up. I saw she works with your project. I think that's why she acted different. Because of what you're doing. You're changing things. Jasmine felt tears in her eyes. Thank you for telling me that, she said. Those stories keep me going. As the sun set on the anniversary event, Jasmine stood with Denise watching Malik and Zara play with other children. They were laughing and running, carefree in a way they had not been for months after the incident. You did good, sis, Denise said, putting her arm around Jasmine. We did good, Jasmine corrected. I couldn't have done any of this without you. True, Denise said with a smile. But it was your courage that started it. You could have stayed quiet. You could have just been glad Patterson didn't hurt you and moved on. But you didn't. You fought, and look what you built. Jasmine looked around at the community gathered in the park. Black and white, old and young, police and residents all talking and eating and trying to build something better together. It was not perfect. There were still problems. But it was progress. I'm tired, Jasmine admitted. This work is never done. There's always another call, another incident, another family that needs help. Sometimes I wonder if anything we do really matters in the big picture. It matters, Denise said firmly. Look at that wall of names. Every single one of those people mattered. And because of what you're doing, maybe someday there will be fewer names. Maybe someday a mother won't have to be afraid to drive through her own neighborhood. Maybe someday children won't have to watch their parent be humiliated. That's worth fighting for. Jasmine nodded. Denise was right. This was worth fighting for. No matter how tired she got, no matter how hard it was worth it. Because 1 year ago, she was just a scared woman being pulled from her car while her children cried. But she did not let that moment define her. She used it to create change. She used it to help others. She used it to build something bigger than herself. And that was the real victory. Not Patterson being fired, though that mattered. The real victory was refusing to let fear win. Refusing to accept that this was just how things were. Refusing to be silent. As they packed up the event, Officer Hayes helped fold chairs. Ms. Williams, he said, can I ask you something? Sure, Jasmine said. Do you think you'll ever fully trust police again? He asked. Jasmine considered the question. I trust some police, she said. I trust you and Officer Johnson and Deputy Chief Torres. But trust all police automatically just because of the uniform? No, that trust has to be earned. And it has to be earned every single day and every single interaction? Hayes nodded. That's fair, he said. That's more than fair. That night, after the children were asleep, Jasmine sat on her porch. The same porch where she had sat a year ago, watching Malik and Zara play, trying to heal from trauma. She looked at the stars and thought about everything that had changed. She was not the same person she was a year ago. That experience had broken something in her, but it had also built something new. She was stronger now, more purposeful. She knew her voice mattered. She knew she could create change. Tomorrow there would be more work. More calls from frightened families. More meetings with police. More speeches and trainings. More fighting to make the world just a little bit better. But tonight she let herself rest. She let herself feel proud of what they had built. She let herself hope that the future would be different because of the work they were doing today. And that hope, hard-earned and precious, was enough to keep going. 2 years had passed since the incident that changed Jasmine's life. 2 years of hard work, healing, and hope. She still had hard days, but the good days were becoming more common. The trauma was still there, tucked away in her body and mind, but it no longer controlled her life. The Community Justice Project was thriving. They had helped more than 300 families navigate complaints against police officers. They had pushed through 5 major policy changes in Charlotte. They had trained hundreds of community members on their rights. And most importantly, they had created a model that other cities were copying. Jasmine had been invited to speak at a national conference on police reform. It was in Washington, D.C., and she decided to bring Malik and Zara. They were excited about the trip. Malik wanted to see all the museums. Zara wanted to see the White House and meet the president, which Jasmine gently explained was not part of the plan. On the plane, Malik asked questions about everything. "Mom, why do you have to give a speech? What are you going to say?" "I'm going to tell our story," Jasmine said. "And I'm going to talk about what worked in Charlotte. Other cities want to learn from what we did." "Are we famous?" Zara asked. Jasmine smiled. "No, baby. We're not famous. We're just people who went through something hard and decided to do something about it." The conference was held in a big hotel with hundreds of people. There were police chiefs, activists, community organizers, politicians, and researchers. All of them were trying to figure out how to make policing better and more fair. Jasmine's speech was on the second day. She stood at the podium looking out at all those faces. She felt nervous, but she also felt ready. She had earned the right to speak. She had lived this experience. 2 years ago, I was pulled over by a racist police officer in front of my children, she began. Her voice was clear and strong. He had no reason to stop me. He targeted me because I'm black. He terrified my children. He grabbed me and tried to arrest me for asking questions. The room was completely silent. People leaned forward to hear every word. "I was lucky," Jasmine continued. "Lucky that my police captain lived on my street. Lucky that neighbors recorded the incident. Lucky that I had the energy and resources to fight back. But most people aren't lucky. Most people's stories end with no accountability, no justice, no change." She talked about filing the complaint, about the hearing, about Patterson being fired, but she also talked about what came after. Firing one bad officer wasn't enough, she said. We needed systemic change. So we built it. We created community oversight. We demanded better training. We pushed for data collection. We built bridges between police and residents. It was hard. It's still hard. But it's working. She showed data. Complaints of racial profiling in Charlotte had dropped by 40% in 2 years. Use of force incidents were down. Community trust in police was slowly increasing. The changes were real and measurable. But here's what I want you to understand, Jasmine said, looking directly at the audience. This didn't happen because one woman filed one complaint. This happened because a whole community decided enough was enough. This happened because good police officers chose to be part of the solution. This happened because we refused to give up. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. People stood up. Some were crying. Jasmine felt overwhelmed by the response. After the speech, dozens of people approached her. Police chiefs asking for advice. Activists sharing their own stories. Mothers who had been through similar experiences. A woman from Seattle. A man from Detroit. A young activist from Los Angeles. All of them wanted to know how to create change in their cities. Jasmine talked to as many people as she could. She shared resources. She gave her contact information. She listened to their stories and offered encouragement. One woman, a white police chief from a small town in Oregon, approached Jasmine with tears in her eyes. "I'm ashamed," she said. "I've been a chief for 10 years and I've dismissed complaints like yours. I told myself the officers just made mistakes. But hearing you speak, I realize I was protecting bad cops and hurting good ones. I'm going to do better." "Then my story mattered," Jasmine said, squeezing the woman's hand. "That's all I can ask for." That evening, Jasmine took Malik and Zara to the Lincoln Memorial. They stood looking up at the massive statue of Abraham Lincoln. Malik read the words carved into the walls. The Gettysburg Address, Lincoln's second inaugural address, words about unity and justice and freedom. "Mom, did Abraham Lincoln stop racism?" Zara asked innocently. Jasmine knelt down to her daughter's level. "He helped end slavery, which was very important. But no, baby, he didn't stop racism. Racism is still here. That's why we have to keep fighting against it." "Will it ever be gone?" Malik asked. Jasmine thought about how to answer. She wanted to be honest but not steal their hope. "I don't know if it will ever be completely gone," she said. but it can be less. It can be better. Every time someone stands up against it, it gets a little weaker. That's what we're doing. Back in Charlotte, life continued. Jasmine balanced her work at the hospital with her work at the Community Justice Project. It was exhausting, but both jobs fed her soul in different ways. At the hospital, she healed bodies. At the project, she healed communities. The Community Advisory Council was now a permanent part of the police department. They met monthly, and their recommendations were taken seriously. When problems arose, they addressed them quickly instead of letting them fester for years like with Patterson. Officer Hayes had been promoted to sergeant. He used his new position to mentor young officers, teaching them about community policing and de-escalation. He often brought new recruits to Community Justice Project events so they could meet residents as people, not problems. Officer Johnson had been promoted too. She was now in charge of training, and she made sure every officer understood bias and its impact. Some officers rolled their eyes at the training, but many took it seriously, and that made a difference. Deputy Chief Torres was now being considered for police chief in another city. It was a big opportunity, but he was torn. He had invested so much in Charlotte's reforms. He worried what would happen if he left. He met with Jasmine to talk about it. "I don't know what to do," he admitted. "I feel like the work here isn't finished." "It's never finished," Jasmine said. "But you built something strong. We built something strong together. It will continue whether you're here or not, and maybe you can start something similar in a new city. Maybe that's how real change spreads." Torres nodded thoughtfully. "You're probably right. When did you get so wise?" Jasmine laughed. "I'm not wise. I'm just stubborn and tired of the way things are." One afternoon, Jasmine had an unexpected encounter. She was at the grocery store with Malik and Zara when she saw him. Patterson. He was in the cereal aisle, looking older and smaller than she remembered. He was wearing regular clothes, just another civilian doing grocery shopping. Their eyes met. Jasmine felt her body tense automatically. Malik grabbed her hand tight. He remembered too. Patterson looked away quickly. He put down the cereal box he was holding and walked toward a different aisle. Jasmine watched him go. She realized she felt pity more than fear. He had lost everything because he could not see past his own bias. His career was gone. His reputation was ruined. And he still did not seem to understand why. "Was that him?" Malik whispered. "Yes," Jasmine said. "I'm not scared anymore," Malik said, standing a little straighter. "He's just a man. A mean man, but just a man." Jasmine was proud of her son's courage. "That's right, baby. He doesn't have power over us anymore." That night, Jasmine called Denise. "I saw Patterson today," she said. "Are you okay?" Denise asked immediately. "Yeah," Jasmine said. "I really am. I looked at him and I just felt sad for him. He wasted his whole career being hateful, and he'll never understand what he lost." "You're a better person than me," Denise said. "I'd still want to punch him." Jasmine laughed. "I didn't say I wanted to hug him, but I'm not afraid of him, and that feels like freedom." The Community Justice Project continued to grow. They hired a full-time director so Jasmine could focus more on strategy and less on day-to-day operations. They opened a second office on the other side of town. They started partnering with schools to teach young people about their rights and civic engagement. Jasmine also started writing a book about her experience and what she learned about creating change. A publisher had approached her after seeing her speak at the conference. At first she said no. Who would want to read her story? But Denise convinced her. "Your story is everyone's story," Denise said. "Every black mother who's afraid to drive. Every parent who has to teach their kids to be careful around police. Every person who's been treated unfairly because of their skin color. You're writing it for them." So Jasmine wrote, late at night after the children were asleep. Early in the morning before work. On weekends while Malik and Zara played. She wrote about fear and courage. About trauma and healing. About justice and hope. The book was difficult to write. Reliving that day, putting those feelings into words was painful. But it was also healing. She was taking something that hurt her and turning it into something that might help others. One evening, Jasmine attended a city council meeting where they were voting on a new police accountability measure. The measure would require independent investigation of all use of force incidents. It was something the Community Justice Project had been pushing for. The council chambers were packed. Police union representatives spoke against the measure. They said it would make officers second-guess themselves in dangerous situations. They said it would hurt morale. Then community members spoke in favor. They talked about loved ones hurt by police. They talked about complaints that were ignored. They talked about the need for accountability. When it was her turn, Jasmine spoke simply. 2 years ago, I was a victim. Today, I'm an advocate. That transformation happened because this community took my complaint seriously. But for every person like me who gets justice, there are dozens who don't. This measure ensures that everyone gets a fair investigation. That's not anti-police. That's pro-justice. The council voted 7-2 in favor. The measure passed. People in the chambers cheered. Jasmine felt tears on her face. It was one more step forward. One more piece of accountability built into the system. After the vote, a young man approached Jasmine. He was about 19, black, wearing a college sweatshirt. Ms. Williams? I'm Terrell. I just wanted to say thank you. For what? Jasmine asked. Last year, a police officer stopped me for no reason and searched my car, Terrell said. He was rough and disrespectful. But because of the changes you helped create, I knew how to file a complaint. And because of the Civilian Review Board, my complaint was actually investigated. The officer got written up and had to go through extra training. It wasn't huge, but it was something. It was more than my older brother got when the same thing happened to him 5 years ago. Stories like Terrell's kept Jasmine going. Every small victory mattered. Every person who found a little more justice mattered. As spring turned to summer, Jasmine's family settled into a new normal. They still had therapy sometimes, but less frequently now. Dr. Brown said they had done good work and were healing well. Malik was doing great in school. Zara was playing soccer and loving it. Jasmine was balancing her work and finding moments of peace. One Saturday, the family went back to the park where everything had started. The park where Jasmine had been stopped. Where her children had cried. Where everything changed. But now the park was just a park again. Malik played basketball with some friends. Zara ran around chasing butterflies. Jasmine sat on a bench with a book, the sun warm on her face. Officer Johnson stopped by. She was off duty, just out for a jog. She sat down next to Jasmine. This is where it happened, right? Johnson asked. Yeah, Jasmine said. How does it feel to be here now? Johnson asked. Jasmine thought about it. Different. That day was the worst day, but it led to some of the best things. I met people I never would have met. I found purpose I didn't know I needed. I helped create change I never thought possible. I don't forgive what Patterson did, but I'm grateful for what came after. You changed the whole department, Johnson said. You know that, right? Officers are more careful now, more thoughtful. Some are resentful, but most appreciate it. We don't want to be like Patterson. You helped us remember that. After Johnson left, Malik came over to his mother. Mom, this park doesn't feel scary anymore, he said. No, Jasmine agreed. It doesn't. We took the scary memory and made new, better memories here. That's what healing looks like. That evening, Jasmine's book editor called. The book was finished and ready to publish. It would come out in 3 months. She had seen the final cover. It was beautiful. The title was simple. Refusing to be silent, one mother's fight for justice. Are you ready for this? The editor asked. The book will bring attention. You'll have to do interviews and events. I'm ready, Jasmine said, and she meant it. 2 years ago, she never would have imagined writing a book. She never would have imagined speaking at conferences or creating an organization or advising police departments. She was just a nurse and mom trying to get through each day. But life had given her a different path. A harder path, but also a more meaningful one. She had taken her worst moment and transformed it into something that helped others. That was not nothing. That was everything. Late that night, Jasmine checked on her sleeping children. Malik was sprawled across his bed, one arm hanging off the side. Zara was curled up with her stuffed rabbit, peaceful and safe. They had been through so much for kids so young. But they were strong. They were healing. They were going to be okay. Jasmine thought about all the families out there facing similar situations. The mothers afraid to drive through their own neighborhoods. The fathers teaching their sons how to survive police encounters. The children learning too young that the world wasn't always fair. She couldn't help all of them. But she could help some. She could keep fighting. She could keep building. She could keep refusing to be silent. Tomorrow there would be more work, more calls, more meetings, more fights for justice. But tonight she let herself rest. She let herself feel proud of how far they had come. Jasmine stood at her window looking out at her quiet neighborhood. The same neighborhood where Officer Patterson had stopped her 2 years ago. The same neighborhood where Captain Torres had intervened. The same neighborhood that had rallied around her family. This was home. And it was safer now, more just because of the work she and so many others had done. It wasn't perfect. It never would be perfect. But it was better, and better was worth fighting for. She thought about Patterson one last time. He had tried to break her that day, tried to make her feel small and powerless and afraid. But he had failed. Because she had refused to stay broken. She had refused to stay silent. She had refused to accept that things couldn't change. And they had changed. Not completely. Not perfectly. But measurably and meaningfully. That was the real victory. Jasmine returned to her bed and lay down. She thought about the speech she would give next week at a college. About the family she would help file a complaint on Tuesday. About the city council meeting on Thursday, where they would discuss another reform measure. About her children's upcoming school events. About her shifts at the hospital. Her life was full and purposeful and exhausting and beautiful. It was not the life she had planned, but it was the life she had built from the ashes of trauma, and she was proud of it. As she drifted off to sleep, her last thought was simple and true. She had survived. She had healed. She had fought. She had won. Not because Patterson was fired, though that mattered. Not because policies changed, though that mattered too. She had won because she had refused to let hate and injustice have the last word. She had won because she had turned her pain into purpose. She had won because she had shown her children that when bad things happen, you don't give up. You stand up. You speak out. You fight for what's right. And that lesson, that courage, that refusal to accept injustice as inevitable, that was the real change. That was the real victory. That was the real story. Jasmine Williams had been a victim, but she had become a survivor, an advocate, a leader, and a symbol of hope for others walking similar paths. And her story, like all stories of courage in the face of injustice, would continue to inspire long after the last page was turned. The work was not done. It would never be completely done. But it was happening. Change was happening. Justice was being built. One complaint, one policy, one brave person at a time, and that was enough. That was everything. That was hope.